Hi, welcome to Proctored Writing with Google Docs and Templates. I am going to be showing this presentation inside out so that I can navigate easily inside and outside of the information and so that I can show you some demonstrations. So, Proctored Writing, we're going to look at Google Docs templates, ways to share, first login, preparing students, history tracking, and how to pair it with Proctored Writing. So the biggest advantage of Google Docs templates is that you can use them to scaffold skill development. You can embed instructions into them, and they show the history of the writing and editing with timestamps and markup. So I have my model here, and I can either click on the time icon or I can go to my file and I can take a look at my version history. Let's give it a second to load, and then it will show me all of the edits that were made at the time of each timestamp. So if I go down to this writing session, you can see that in real time how much writing I was doing over the time frame, and I can click on each one and see what writing was done. Notice this is a very long doc, so it takes a moment for it to load and show me the edits. Maybe more than a moment. And sometimes it's Google, it's a little temperamental. But the biggest thing is that if you go to a space where the entire document shows up suddenly without a history of writing, that's a big red flag. There are different ways to share. The best is sharing by the professor with the students. I create a working portfolio. This is proctored writing. I have access to the history. I am the editor. I do get a lot of alerts in emails, so big warning there. You can create a forced copy, which that is when you take the ending. So notice here from the edit on, I could put in the word copy. And then if you give that link to students, it creates a forced copy of the document or whatever you're sharing. That one is more problematic. There's no control over the sharing, and you cannot, you can't see. And half of them are not going to set up the sharing correctly. So you're going to spend more time trying to get them to share it with you. Using the external tool in Canvas is not going to work. There is no history. It creates a snapshot of the paper at the time it was submitted, and it simply won't work. So let's go back to best ways to share. So shared by a professor in a working portfolio, which is our proctored writing with a lot of alerts from the email. This happens when they do significant changes or if they add comments or change comments. So to get started, I create a template folder. So I've made a folder. It is full of templates. Let me unlink that. And you can see I have different things for different papers. And I usually guide them through the first few and then they start using their own. The other thing is that each of these templates is scaffolded, so it has perhaps the directions inside. It has direct links that I can put in links that'll take them to models or examples, as well as tutorials. And then I have spaces where I want them to fill in the pieces that fit. So I've created my template folder. The next thing I want to do is create student folders. So what I'm going to do is create a blank. What I did was I created a blank folder and then I added inside, I wanted two subfolders. So I wanted assignments and research articles. And I'm doing this on my desktop. And the reason I'm doing that, I'm inside my Google Drive. I have my syncing set up here. But if you try to copy a full folder on your desktop, Google will create lots of errors that are not going to be your friend. But it'll let you copy blank folders beautifully. So if I take this folder, actually, yeah, if I take this folder and hit Command C and then click in this box here. So I'm actually clicking over here. Every time I hit V, it'll create, oops, I clicked on the wrong one. Let's try that again. So copy, paste, Command V, there we go. Now it's doing it. So I can keep creating as many copies as I want. And I usually do a full set of 30 for a composition class. So I have extras in case I need them. I can always roll them over to another class. It's not that hard to do. The next thing I do is I go back to copying my docs from my template folder. So for this, I need two windows on Google Drive. I have my template, so my portfolio template, and then I have my folder where all of these folders are generating. So you can see them all populating here. And what I'm going to do is select everything I want to copy. Now I already have these two folders, so I'm actually going to unselect them. But then I can hit Command C and see how I have 14 items copied to the clipboard. So I have everything I want. And then I can open each folder and click inside the folder. So I've clicked in this big window and hit Command V again, and it tells me I'm copying 14 files. Now I don't have to wait for it to finish copying. I can click back here and open the next folder, and as long as it tells me it's copying, I'm good. And then grab the next folder and again, paste it in. The trick is to make sure that you haven't accidentally skipped a folder. So it helps to keep track. So that's how you copy them. If I want to put specific things inside the assignment folder, I have to open the assignment folder, copy the items that I want. So again, I'm going to copy them all. I'm not doing the digital journal. And I copy it, and then I'm going to go back. And this one's a little trickier. So that's why subfolders I don't generally recommend. But you're going to go in and open it, click and paste, and then I'm going to go back to Windows to get back to my folder, and then I'm going to open my next one. And again, I don't have to wait. I can keep going back, and and the folders will generate while I'm not watching it, which is really nice. Okay, the next step is to share each folder with each student's Saddleback or IVC email. You can, from there, choose if you want to pass the ownership or not. So I typically, now I'm not going to show you how to open my site and show your class list with your student emails because of FERPA, but what you can do is I open them side by side and then I copy the email over. So if I go back in, I have to unclick here to make this generate. So if I go back into the, oops, wrong folder. So I go back into my class and I'm going to rename the folder. So I'm going to do a right click or a two-finger click, depending on my software. And I'm going to rename this with the student's name. And I just put the student's name in the front. Okay, so now it's been renamed. You can see it down here. And then I want to also share it. So I can either click the sharing icon or pull up the menu to share. And you just put the student's email in. So I'm actually going to use my email really quick and plug that in. If you've pasted it incorrectly, so if you paste it incorrectly, it'll generate the student's name and then you just hit send. You want to make sure the student has editing power. I allow it to notify the student and then I go ahead and I send it. Changing ownership is up to you. If you have set it so that you've shared the folder and passed ownership to the student, then the folder will generate inside their Google Drive for Saddleback. If you don't choose to share it, there is a chance, like sharing it gives a chance that they could change who has editing power. There's usually one or two who do it, and they're very nice about switching the editing back. If you choose not to share it, so you're maintaining that control, students will spend a lot of time looking for the folder in the shared with me location, and you'll spend a lot of time helping students find their folder. So it's really up to you. That's not my favorite way to do it. And then to transfer it, you just go back to share. And so say I want to transfer it to my other account here or to another person. You just hit transfer ownership. Do I want to make it the owner? I can say yes. And notice it will not let me transfer outside of Saddleback. So this is why it has to be their Saddleback or their student account. If they have shared it with their personal account for some reason before you transfer, it will remove their personal account from there. You will stay on though as the creator of the folder. The other thing you want to do is prepare your students and expect to troubleshoot with them, especially the first few weeks of class on a longer class or the first couple of weeks on a shorter class if you're at an 8-week. You're going to spend some time working with students on how to find things or connecting them to the student technical support. After I've shared their folders at the very next class, this is actually my slide from the next class, I show them how to find Chrome, how to open it, how to log in using their Saddleback account. These are the steps to do it. And then I also point out to them that your Chrome login is up here and your Google Drive login is here. And if your icons don't match, so maybe you're on one account here and a different account there, you're going to have problems with defaulting and dropping things in weird locations. So I always tell students that their icons need to match. I also require that they are logged into their Saddleback account when they are in class working on class assignments collaboratively so that they can access them as only if they are on their Saddleback account. The first couple times, there are students who can't do it because they're on their personal account. They figure it out. By the middle of the semester, they've all got it, and you're not having to have that conversation anymore. Preparing the student means you're making sure that they know why we're doing this. So the professor's access to the history, it protects them if there's any concerns about plagiarism because we can see that they're writing their paper in real time. Choosing not to use a template provided by the professor, in my class, it's throwing away 20% of your grade because in English 1B, being able to format it correctly matters. And I just knock that off if you didn't use the template. The other really great thing is Google Drive automatically saves to the cloud and it can be accessed from any computer, which is really beneficial. If their computer crashes, their work has been saved generally. If something happens to their laptop or their computer, they can log into Google Drive from any computer and find all their work. The one note I want to point out is an equity concern that not all students have regular access to Wi-Fi from home. So just be aware of that caution. Earlier I mentioned that I require students to log in to assignments while we're in class. So there's two reasons. When they're on the document, I can see them live on the paper. So I can see who is moving through the paper, who's name is staying at the top because they're not doing anything. And I'm in class, so I can also hear the conversations that are going on. Afterwards, I can go back into the document and I can see it's color coded. I can see that J wrote this part and that C wrote this part, and we don't have a whole lot from R and M. Now, I also do a couple of other things that I pair with proctored writing. As a composition professor, the first thing I did was convert about 60 to 80% of my time that I was spending grading papers independently and then expecting students to actually look at them and change their next draft. I converted them into office hours with student appointments, so I'm having those conversations with students instead of in writing. Students are required to meet with me once for every paper, and if they're stuck or behind, they have to meet with me every week with some show of progress in order to continue extending deadlines. This can also mean bringing a draft to class for a quick conversation, or it can be a 20 or 30-minute or 15-minute Zoom appointment that I have Canvas set up for them to sign up for. What this means is by the time I'm looking at their final papers, I've already talked with them about their research and their writing multiple times. I know what they're doing, I know their work, I know their research, I know their frustrations. The other thing that I pair with proctored writing is peer review days. So the way class starts is they drop off their paper with me and they start a writing task or a group task that they know is coming. I organize their papers based on error patterns. So this is a very fast kind of thing where I'm looking for specific skills and I'm organizing them based on how they're following. I'm not marking up every draft or every part of the draft. I'm marking up the errors that I'm seeing as I look through. Then I call students up in groups and I try to mix up how I pull the groups so that it's not obvious who I'm pulling when. The fastest conversations are obviously going to be the perfect papers, and they're also the students I use as the models. The rewrites are also very fast papers because they have fatal flaws going on in their paper. Maybe it's incomplete, they have bad sources, bad structure, they didn't follow directions. I make that a 2-minute conversation where I'm explaining to them, like, oh, I see this is going on. You need more time than I can do today. Sign up for an appointment and we'll go into it in depth and see if we can figure out what's going on. My longer conversations typically fall in pattern clusters, although I sometimes have singletons that I meet with individually. They might be a minor MLA error or a common MLA error, a common thesis error that is not fatal, maybe a minor support error, or something going on with a pattern in their writing or their writing skills. So thank you so much for listening to my video.